Call the meeting to order. Meeting for City of Huron City Commission meeting. Today is Monday, March 20th, 2023, and it is 5:30 p.m. I'm Brian Smith. I am a City Commissioner, and I'm filling in for Mayor Gary Harrington tonight. He is away on doing some traveling, so getting out of the snow, I believe is what he said. So unfortunately, he has to go quite a ways to do that these days. So with that in mind, we will have the roll call.
Smith.
Here.
Weinreich.
Here.
Bragg.
Here.
Robish.
Present.
Mayor Harrington is absent.
Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any changes, additions to the agenda? If not, I'd ask for a motion to approve.
I'd move to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Robish. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Bragg seconds. Roll call, please.
Smith.
Aye.
Weinreich.
Aye.
Bragg.
Aye.
Robish.
Aye.
Motion carries. Public forum. Public comments may be sent during the live meeting broadcast on the city's YouTube channel. The link is listed on the city's website at www.huronsd.gov. Click on Government, then City Commission. In order to use the YouTube chat feature, please create an account with YouTube and Gmail. Or you can use your existing accounts. Please state your name and address for the record. Public forum is limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per person. And we do have Nathan Hofer, our HR director, is manning the YouTube channel. So if you have something you'd like to send in, please do so online. Otherwise, do we have any in audience for public forum? Any of the commissioners have any? Okay. With that, we will continue on. City Commission adjourns to convene as the Board of Adjustment for the following public hearing. Consider amending the variance request filed by ASHE, project address 39588 US Highway 14, Huron, South Dakota, to allow a church and related services where code requires that a minimum lot size shall be 5 acres unless the residence or church constructed on the lot is connected to municipal water and sanitary sewer, in which case a 2-acre lot size may be permitted by the Joint Planning Commission. In no case will lots smaller than 2 acres be permitted in an area zoned RO, also known as Large Lot Residential District, and located in the joint jurisdictional area. We heard, we did approve this last week. However, after we were done with the meeting the next day, Julie took a look at it in the city planning, and we do have a correction to make to the motion, and I'll have Julie explain what that is, please.
Yeah, so I got a hold of Kim with Beetle County, and so the state only requires a parcel of land to be 20,000 square feet if there's not a well on the land for a septic tank and drain field to work. The county does require an engineered plan from a certified installer that will show it can meet the state required setbacks. This would be from water sources, wells, structures. If a party can meet those requirements, then they would only need that 20,000 acres or more. And this is 2-acre parcel, which is more than that. Mid-Dakota water is available on the lot, so a well would not be needed. And then I did write up the motion for someone to make, but we should also include on there that the lot is gravelled, and that would help flying dust and that for neighbors. There is a huge buffer of trees around the property, so a fence or trees is not necessary.
Just want to quick add something too from last week. You know, we approved joining lots with the planners, or excuse me, the planning department and the building officials' requirements. The planning was the tree buffer. Building official, as I recommend, following the zoning ordinance, if allowed, a full set of plans designated stamped by architect will be required. Just to include those recommendations as well.
And I made the initial motion last week, so I would amend that motion with the understanding that rather than, I think there was some misunderstanding of the terminology. What I was intending was to do the restrictive covenant, not necessarily replat. Then we did also have the conversation about having to vacate that right away, and then I would keep the original recommendations from the Joint Planning Commission of the gravel lot, as well as any required building codes, including the certification on the septic system per the county recommendations.
Make a second.
Okay, there is a motion and a second. Does that correspond with what you're looking for?
Yeah,
that?
we just, as long as when we get our plan from them for building, as long as the engineered plan or the certified installer, probably Benwith, just states that that installation will work on 2 acres, then that is fine. Otherwise, if they needed more, we would want to do a street vacation petition to take out that street right of way between the 2 lots. And then between the 2 lots, it would be close to the 5 acres.
Any further discussion or questions from the commission?
I guess I would, Brian, if I could, I think that long-term for the future development of that property, I think, and I know last week he spoke that he was willing to put those lots together. I really would strongly recommend that they try to not move forward, even if it would be approved, just squeezing it all into one lot, because I think long-term it would be better to attach those 2 lots for any future sale of the property or anything like that.
Commissioner, I just note for the record that the applicant, a she, is here. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Anything else from, Aishi, do you understand what, if you would approach, please, and give us your name and address, and I just want to make sure that we all understand the amendment.
Yes, my name is Aishi, address 39588 US Highway 14. I think what Commissioner Bragg was saying was also a good suggestion. But at first, I would like to prefer that if we can just have that lot for now. And in some cases, if we really happen to need like extra lot, then we will be able to work with our people again, So,
Yeah.
but in the meantime, if that lot will be okay, and as I stated before, I have talked to Ben Wade, is that right?
Yes.
He went there to the property, he walked around with me, and regarding the sewer septic system, he mentioned it to me that it will be okay. He said that there were plenty of spaces, or enough spaces. So, but like you said, if we happen to need extra spaces, or we have to go over to another lot, then I can come back and talk it to you.
Okay.
Is that be okay?
Sure. Yeah, the amendment to the motion would allow you to do that, to keep it contained to the area that you're planning,
Okay.
provided it meets the water seepage requirements and
Sure.
certifications, so,
So, yeah.
okay?
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Smith.
Aye.
Wainwright.
Aye.
Gray.
Aye.
Robish.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thanks for coming back.
And do I have to come back to another meeting too?
No.
I'm sorry, for the
County.
Just with Beetle County,
Oh.
yep, and I believe that's next Tuesday. Double check with the auditor. Yep,
Thank you so
yep.
very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a great evening.
Next item, 4.2, conditional use permit filed by C. Langbean Properties LLC, project address 110 3rd Street Southwest, to allow apartments, dwelling units on the 3rd and 4th floors of the building where code requires a conditional use permit for this use, provided the units do not occupy the first floor in an area zone B2, which is the central business district. Julie, would you maybe give us an outline of the project and what we're working with?
Yeah, so he's planning to have commercial or business uses on the main floor. The second floor will be like a hotel and maybe some rooms, I believe you'd said, for extended stay, like for traveling nurses. And then the 3rd and 4th floor would be apartments. And so I did go through our ordinance and figured what was needed for requirements for parking. And they have plenty of parking spaces there to accommodate everything they're wanting to do. The only thing that they would want to do is haul off snow, and he has agreed to that to accommodate all the tenants and employees there, so. And Chris recommended approval of it too, and understands that he needs a full set of stamp drawings. And Connor has provided them, and we are in the process of a plan review.
Okay. Is there a motion on the table?
Motion to approve 4.2.
Is there a second? I'd like to invite Mr. Langbean up, just to maybe, Mr. and Mrs. Langbean, I stand corrected, maybe to go through it a little bit and.
Sure. Well, good evening. I hope you're all doing well. I'm Connor Langbean, and I'm the one restoring and remodeling the former Hickory House Motor Inn. To date, on the basement, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors, we have completely gutted the interior of those floors, as well as have updated some mechanical and cosmetic components on the main floor and main floor spaces, with acquisition costs as well totaling nearly $1 million to date. We expect at the finish of this project we'll have a total of $4.5 million into it privately funded, not by the taxpayers or any government programs. The schematics of the plan are to keep the main floor as it is with 6 office rentals and continue leasing the coffee shop and its equipment out, while updating the cosmetics of those spaces as well as the main lobby that includes one of Huron's oldest and most historical water features. The 2nd floor will include 14 luxury hotel rooms. The 3rd and 4th floors will include 18 luxury loft-style apartments, with 2 being designated for folks like traveling nurses only coming to Huron for 3 or 4 months. The basement will remain as it has been when the building was built in 1946 as an event space with a much-needed cosmetic update. We will be adding a rooftop lounge off the 2nd floor lower roof, and that's in the future, yet a couple of years. But we are going to keep the building as historical as possible using the photos I've collected from several different entities around Huron. The name of the hotel will be the James Hotel, and the apartments will be named Lofts on 3rd. The building will be secured by floors, only allowing guests to go to the 2nd floor and residents to go up to the 3rd or 4th floors. Shortly after I turned in this conditional use permit, I received back from my architect a full set of stamped plans, including the fire sprinkler system plans, which the inspections, engineering, and planning department are all reviewing. I have the financing taken care of thanks to one of our local banks. I'm more than willing to work closely with the city to meet both of our needs. I believe that the value of other buildings near mine will definitely increase in resale value because of the remodel and location, as well as improving traffic. We are ready to start the remodel as soon as we can get a building permit from the city of Huron, which could be very soon from what I've been hearing. So, the reason I'd like to have hotel rooms, apartments, and businesses in the same building is because it would be less risky for me and my company to have 3 or 4 different ways to produce income and stay afloat if one of those business sectors would become unviable. Thank you all for considering, and does anyone have any questions?
Commissioner Bragg?
Could I, just a little clarification on the snow removal? If that's a requirement, is that something that's listed in the conditional use? And
It's
then
not
what kind
really
of-
a requirement, I guess we just suggested it so that he always knows he
And
has
I've got,
ample
I
parking.
do that even the way it is now too, but I've talked, I use Red Will, and I've talked to him a week ago. He's more than willing to take that snow off every time even, he said, so that's no issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm sure there's a lot of questions, I don't know what to ask right now. You probably don't have the answers anyway. That's quite an undertaking, and I'm glad to see you there.
Thank you.
You bet.
I do have kind of a little bit of a moving question, but any idea of anticipated occupancy date?
Yes, we're thinking by August or September, we're gonna have 1 floor. The way that we're doing it is in stages, so all the framing will be done at once, all the electrical, that'll go floor by floor, you know. So we're thinking plumbing's going to start in July, and they told me it'll be about 3 weeks a floor. So that was kind of our last thing, and we're hoping to get the sprinkler systems installed in April, so.
So sometime this summer or
Yeah,
late summer?
late summer, yep.
Good for you. Just looking forward to it.
Yeah,
It's-
if it looks just like that, it'd be great.
Yeah, and kind of a neat feature on this is at Dakota Plaza, when it was the Marvin Hewitt, they had a weather ball, and we've kind of done a unique spin on that with the top of our sign, so.
Connor, do you know as far as the sprinkler system, just since you had to,
Yeah,
do you have to bring a new line in from the street?
no,
Like,
we actually were sufficient in that, so we've got, all of that was a good thing that I heard from them. It was sufficient for not just that, but also to run water to the apartments and hotel rooms and
Great.
businesses.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Call the vote, please.
Smith,
Aye.
Weinreich.
Aye.
Bragg,
Aye.
Robish.
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you all.
The City Commission now adjourns to convene as the Board of, the Board of Adjustment adjourns to reconvene as the City Commission. Consent agenda. Matters appearing on the consent agenda are expected to be non-controversial and will be acted upon by the Commission at one time without discussion, unless a member of the Commission requests an opportunity to address any given item. Items removed from the consent agenda will be discussed at the beginning of the formal items. 6.1, minutes of March 13th, 2023 City Commission meeting. 6.2, raffle filed by Jennifer Fuchs for a fundraising event. 6.3, appointment of Jenny Sorvin to the Parks and Recreation Board. 6.4, payment of bills. Is there a motion to approve consent?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Bragg,
Second.
second by Commissioner Robish. Roll call, please.
Smith,
Aye.
Weinreich.
Aye.
Bragg,
Aye.
Robish.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to ordinances and resolutions. 9.1, public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 2251-23-412, zoning medical cannabis establishment regulations. Mr. Bolesky, could you walk through that, please?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. This ordinance deals with the revision to the zoning requirements with relation to cannabis, and it's requiring that applicants who are granted a conditional use permit for a medical cannabis establishment must open and operate the establishment within 180 days of approval, or the conditional use permit may be subject to forfeiture.
Make a motion to approve the second reading of 9.1.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Bragg, second. Any discussion on this? Mr. Bragg?
Just quick clarification, so with this one and the following one, essentially, just so I make sure I understand, the first one is in regards to the conditional use, and then that's one fee, and then also then with the next one we'll be handling, if they were to lose their conditional use, it would also impact their license, so they could potentially both, because last time we talked about whether we were talking about just the conditional use permit or the license, but this would essentially mean both with the two that we're talking about?
So it's just the conditional use permit. However, if the conditional use permit is forfeited or subject to forfeiture and they try to apply for the license, that's grounds to deny the license.
Or if they already have an approved license, but would there be a scenario where somebody could have a license approved and not have opened yet?
That could be.
So in that case, then, just to fully understand what we're voting on, they would potentially then, you could be saying someone would lose both their conditional use permit fee and also their license fee.
They could, yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure, because I know we kind of went back and forth on that last week. So, thank you.
Any, Commissioner Robish?
Thank you. If this passes, when would it take effect, Colin? Could you give me a date on that?
20 days after publication. Publication Friday. So around April 14th, 17th, somewhere in there.
Okay, thank you.
The two conditional use permits that we have outstanding that could potentially be affected by this, have they applied for a license, or do they just have the conditional use?
At this point, they just have the conditional use. On
Thank
the
you.
state website, they haven't submitted anything to the state yet.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Weinreich?
And maybe Julie can answer this. Has either one of those parties reached out to your office in regards to anything?
No, we haven't heard anything from them.
And you guys haven't either?
No.
I think it's one entity, isn't it, that has both?
No, it's
Yes.
I think it's one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
same company.
Yep, same company.
One
Two
the
of them
thoughts
have
was-
opened already.
Right. Was that once these are passed and effective, a letter would be sent to them with a copy of the ordinance explaining where we're at with it.
Okay. Everybody,
And I should say, just for further clarification, just since this is a second reading, we did also discuss last week that although this creates the mechanism where we could put them into forfeit, this body would still have some discretion whether or not we enact it. So just to repeat the conversation from last.
that's, yeah, I
Correct.
believe that's where we landed.
Correct. Yep.
Thank you. Okay. Roll call, please.
Heck,
Aye.
Weinreich?
Aye.
Bragg?
Aye.
Rubbish?
Aye.
Motion carries. 9.2, second reading of ordinance number 2252-5-133, cannabis establishment license. Back to you, Mr. Valesky.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. This ordinance revision is in relation to the cannabis establishment licensing process, where if an applicant applies for a cannabis establishment license and their conditional use permit is forfeited or subject to forfeiture, it would be grounds to deny the license, and it would also be grounds to suspend a license if they've already had their license.
Move to approve the second reading of ordinance 2252-5-133.
Commissioner Bragg approves, makes motion to approve.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Weinreis. Any discussion on item 9.2? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Smith,
Aye.
Weinreich,
Aye.
Bragg,
Aye.
Rubbish.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 9.3, first reading of ordinance number 2253-16-94, snow removal emergency routes, and set the second reading for March 20th. I believe Commissioner Weinreis has got some intel on this.
Yeah, so we were approached by Evan Terra at the nursing home facility over on Arizona, and they requested that Michigan Avenue from 13th to 15th Street be considered a snow emergency route, and this request was brought to the Safety Committee, and Commissioner Robish and I, along with the other committee members, recommended that be approved. And so we, along with visiting with our street superintendent, Mr. Simpson, he agrees that this should be considered, and so we are now bringing it to the full commission for approval, because this would need to be added to the ordinance. Also notated, and maybe Julie can talk about this a little bit further pertaining to 13th Street.
Yeah, 13th kind of goes around in kind of a J shape where it would connect with, I'm sorry, what was that? Michigan. And so that actually is not a dedicated road right of way in that area, it's a private drive. And so that would need to get platted as a dedicated road right of way to be considered all that same street.
And so, after visiting with the director, or the administrator of the facility, they are in agreeance that they will work to have that replatted. So we can go ahead and approve this motion, notating that that will be brought forward at a later date. And so I will make a motion to approve 9.3.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second on first reading of the ordinance. As a matter of protocol, Tucker, I kind of jumped out of turn with you. Would you like to reiterate what the ordinance is actually putting or insinuating, I guess?
Yes, thank you, and it appears the ordinance is just adding Michigan Avenue from 12th Street to Arizona Avenue, at Arizona Avenue to 15th Street Southwest, and that will now be included as an emergency route.
Okay. Thank you, Tucker. Commissioner Weinreich?
Yes, and so just a clarification here, and we do need to correct that number Z. It should be 13th Street to 15th Street. It should not read 12th Street, so we would like to correct that in the motion.
And you said you wanted your motion to include the replatting as well.
Correct, and so that would include that street be vacated, or that private drive be vacated.
Dedicated.
Or dedicated
Yeah.
right of way, so that it would allow us to be able to go through there with our equipment.
So I'm gonna quick ask Tucker a question. Is that a significant enough change to the ordinance that we should move first reading to next week?
That you're now going to vacate, you're going to include a vacation, is that?
Change
Yeah.
12th Street to 13th Street?
I don't think that's particularly, I think you should be good to go. Yep, yep. You can move forward with, if you're just changing 12th Street to 13th Street.
But as far as that should affect this.
Changing,
Do you want
adding
this?
So
right.
adding that we're gonna have them dedicate street, does that affect
We'll
it?
reread the motion.
That's not changing the ordinance.
No.
Correct.
No, you're fine on the ordinance. Yeah.
So, for clarification, Pauline, would you reread what the motion is, please?
The motion for the ordinance changes from Michigan from 13th Street at Arizona Avenue to 15th Street Southwest, and to discuss a plat of the portion of 13th Street to designate as a street and not a private property.
Is that where you wanted to go? Okay. All right, roll call vote, please.
Could I
Oh, I'm
say-
sorry, excuse me.
That's all right. I just want to explain a little, or clarify that they did request to be added to the snow route, and that's not just open to anyone that wants to have a snow route go by their place to have their snow done right away. We have had, in the past, we've had usually the street superintendent or someone that he assigns will have someone on call available to go with a loader on that route in case there's an ambulance emergency for there, and that has happened as recent, very recent. And so it's not the first time they've asked for this, but it's happened enough times to where we want, it's justifiable. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's more than just, I want my snow pushed first.
Yeah, well, as long as we're opening that up, might as well jump on it.
And then quick other correction is the second reading is March 27th.
Thank you.
Brian, they won't do your driveway either,
I got enough problems. Okay, so we clear, we good? Everybody got their questions, clarifications done? Call the vote, please.
Smith,
Aye?
Weinreich,
Aye.
Wright,
Aye.
Robish.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to resolution 9.4, resolution number 2023-03, South Dakota Public Funds Investment Trust, SD FIT. And Pauline Carey, would you lead us through that, please?
Yes, thank you. We've been discussing in the finance office, a little bit with the library board, with my commissioner, looking at ways to better our investments, to get a little bit better return on our monies. South Dakota FIT has been around a really long time. The city of Huron has not ever been a member. But at this time, they have some accounts, some money market accounts that are significant interest that we would definitely like to look at. We don't need to be a member to do that, but there's other options. As you can see, the fixed rate investment, cash management, and some bond services, as well as doing a cash flow analysis, which might be kind of interesting. So I'm just looking at becoming a member of South Dakota FIT to give us more options for our monies. So I ask for your approval. Myself and Kristen Cronin will be on the account.
I would move to approve.
Motion approved, Rich Bragg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Weinreich. A question that I'd have, is there a charge to belong to this?
There is no fee.
Any further questions?
That was my questions. Thanks.
Roll call vote, please.
Smith,
Aye.
Weinreich.
Aye.
Wright,
Aye.
Robish.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item under departmental items, 10.1, consider investment policy for the city of Huron. And Pauline Carey, please walk us through that.
Yeah, so it kind of goes with obviously the resolution. Again, we're looking at ways to increase the return on investment for the city funds. We've had written policies and we've had unwritten policies. And mostly we've been going by the unwritten policy, of which is state law. So what I did is I contacted the other cities, got copies of their policies, and melted it into one that I feel is pretty general, to be honest, but still covers all the state laws. I did have it reviewed by a couple of different banking institutions that we use. We did make a couple changes prior to bringing it to you guys. Because we are so limited to what we have available, Section 6 on page 58 is, only U.S. Treasury securities. Anything issued by a federal government or U.S. government. money markets, CDs, repurchase agreements complying. We don't do a lot of those. We're pretty conservative as a city, most cities are. So I felt that it's pretty conservative, which you all know I'm conservative. And then one of the notes at the end is the internal controls. This is something we started working with last year with the auditors of each department that handles money and different things, put in a name and a place and responsibility and internal controls for free cash, for credit card usage, those types of things. So we'll be working on that again with our auditors. I do not have that finished. And then the interest from these funds, I visited the library today, you know, they go back to the funds. It doesn't just go in the general fund. Some cities do that. Our funds, when we earn interest on them, go to whatever fund has the money. So we try to keep that fair by percentage of what's in the total. So, any questions, let me know, otherwise I ask for approval.
Is there a motion for approval of the investment policy?
So,
Commissioner Bragg moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Weinrice. Any questions on this or concerns, Commissioner Bragg?
just a quick follow-up. So you mentioned working with the library. So, like, are you some of their trust funds then, or? Okay.
Yep. It
And
would be
then-
all the funds in the city, whichever funds are in interest. We do have funds that don't. Our debt service funds don't, TIP funds that we hold, you know, and send to somebody else. Those types of funds don't earn interest.
So can you do, without getting into line by line, but just kind of in general, we have some trust funds with the library, we have our general funds, what other?
We would have second penny fund, third penny fund, you know, some other special revenue funds. We have a few park and rec funds with some limited funds available. So any fund like that that has money in it that can earn interest will benefit from that investment policy and the different accounts we can use.
And all the interest will stay within that same, perfect, thank you.
Anyone else? Call the motion? Or
Smith.
call the roll? Aye.
Weinrice.
Aye.
Bragg.
Aye.
Robish.
Aye.
Being no further business, we are adjourned.